Remember this sound?
Newgrounds!
Newgrounds! They wrote some stuff under the tank.
Or this character?
Hello. Today I'm having a little get-together.
For an entire decade, this creative, chaotic, and sometimes bizarre world was the heart of the internet. It was our playground, our movie theater. For many, it was the first time they felt they could create something online. And then, it was gone. Replaced by this. What happened? How could an entire ecosystem that defined a generation of internet users simply vanish? This isn't just a story about outdated technology. This is the story of how a single, powerfully written letter served as a public execution for a whole era of digital culture. This is the story of the death of Flash. Before we can understand its death, we must understand what made Flash so revolutionary. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the internet was slow, clunky. Loading a single high-quality image could take minutes on a dial-up connection. Then came Macromedia Flash. It used something called vector graphics, which meant animations were smooth, scalable, and, most importantly, had incredibly small file sizes. It was a game changer. Suddenly, the static, boring web exploded with life. Platforms like Newgrounds became the YouTube before YouTube, a place where any bedroom animator could share their creation with the world. Sites like Albino Black Sheep and eBaum's World curated the weirdest and most wonderful content. And the games. Oh, the games. They were simple, addictive, and accessible to anyone with a browser. From Yeti Sports to Line Rider, these weren't just games. They were cultural touchstones. For a time, Flash was the internet. It was the language of creativity, a digital Wild West where anything felt possible. Adobe saw this and bought Macromedia in 2005 for $3.4 billion. Flash was on top of the world. But a storm was brewing in Cupertino, California. In 2007, Apple released the iPhone. It changed everything. But it had one glaring omission. It did not and would not support Flash. For years, people speculated why. Adobe claimed Apple wanted to control the App Store. Apple stayed relatively quiet. Until April 29th, 2010. On that day, Apple CEO Steve Jobs published an open letter. It wasn't just a criticism. It was a methodical, brutal dismantling of Flash's reputation. Jobs laid out 6 key arguments. He called Flash a proprietary system in an era of open standards like HTML5. He claimed it had one of the worst security records in tech. He argued it was a CPU hog that drained battery life on mobile devices, a death sentence for a phone. He stated it was designed for PCs with a mouse, not for touchscreens. And the final nail in the coffin, he argued that allowing Flash would create a subpar user experience and undermine the stability of the entire iOS platform. The letter was a masterpiece of corporate warfare. It was read by millions. And it worked. He didn't just criticize Flash, he publicly declared it obsolete. The impact was immediate. The narrative had shifted. Flash was no longer seen as the engine of creativity. It was now viewed as a buggy, insecure, and outdated relic. The dominoes began to fall. In 2011, Adobe announced it would stop developing Flash for mobile browsers. YouTube, once a Flash-powered giant, made HTML5 its default player in 2015. Google Chrome, the world's most popular browser, began actively blocking Flash content by default. For the average user, the internet just started to change. Games they loved no longer loaded. Animations they shared were replaced with error messages. It was a slow, painful decay. Finally, in 2017, Adobe announced the official end-of-life date for Flash. On December 31st, 2020, the support was officially terminated. The king was dead. So what was lost? Not just a piece of software. We lost an entire library of human creativity. Millions of hours of animation, hundreds of thousands of games, and countless interactive websites, all rendered inaccessible overnight. It's a chilling reminder of how fragile our digital culture can be. But history is never truly erased. It's just buried. Today, projects led by digital archaeologists and volunteers, like the incredible Flashpoint Archive, are working tirelessly to save this lost media. They have preserved over 100,000 games and animations, allowing us to experience this forgotten era once more. These projects aren't just saving files. They are preserving the memories, the art, and the spirit of a wilder, more experimental internet. An internet that, for a brilliant moment in time, ran on Flash. What's your favorite memory of the Flash era? A game? An animation? A website? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy digging into the forgotten corners of the web, subscribe to The Web Historian and join our next investigation. Thank you for watching.